All righty, welcome into the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave, cavetalkradio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo coming in a little late today. We apologize, but we'll get right to it. Opening rant, well, it can only be one thing. Obviously, since we last spoke, Kyrie Irving asked for a trade, got a trade, and in reviewing said trade and the fallout of the whole thing, which happened in almost record time, like 48 hours or something. It's become clear through reporting, Sporting News and others have said that Joe Tsai, the Nets owner, was determined not to trade Irving to the Lakers no matter what. So I saw a list of trades on the table from 4 different teams. Of course, the Mavericks, who actually got Irving, the Lakers, the Clippers, and then there was a 4th team, the Suns, were involved. And I'll have to try to find this list again. I thought I saved it. I didn't. But off of memory real quick, Kyrie could have been traded to the Suns for Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, and some draft picks. I think that would have been probably the worst trade that Brooklyn could have made. The Clippers offer included Mann and someone else and draft picks. And the Lakers offer included, of course, Westbrook, Austin Reeves, and the 2 draft picks. And there might have been one other player in there too. One other Laker player. Oh, it was Max Christie. That's who it was. I got to tell you what the Nets got in Dinwiddie and in what else they get there from Dallas? Dorian Finney-Smith and a draft pick. They got the best players for today that were available in any of these trades. They didn't get the best youth or draft capital that could have been had, or cap flexibility. If they were looking for any of those things, they would have either gone with the Lakers offer or perhaps the Clippers offer, depending what you were prioritizing. The one thing about acquiring Westbrook would have been you would have a massive cap number coming off your cap at the end of the season because he's an expiring contract. So that move tells me 2 things. One, what I just reported, which is Tsai was not going to send him to the Lakers no matter what. Sort of a bit of a, FU, which, is understandable to a degree. It's probably not great business, but it's understandable. But the bigger thing is it tells you there's been a lot of rumor and talk about maybe Durant being on the block right now, which I'll have something on next segment. But this move tells me the Nets aren't done thinking of themselves as a contender for today right now. Because if they were, they would have taken the cap money by acquiring Westbrook, or they would have gone after the Clippers deal and gotten the best young player of the bunch, which is Mann. The fact that they didn't do either of those and they got the deal that has the 2 best players for today, other than, well, Chris Paul would have been the number 1 player, of course, for today, but 2 of the 3 best players for today, tells me that they're probably still looking at trying to remain competitive. Now, that's the hard analysis. Now, where my rant comes in is a lot of people are bashing Kyrie, predictably so, as a malcontent, as a cancer, as this, as that. And, maybe that's true. He certainly was that in Boston. I believe in Brooklyn, he was the one that was, I don't want to say mistreated, but the Nets were the ones that dropped the ball in this relationship. I'll put it that way. After he refused the vaccine and then the law changed, allowing him to play, and they had no recourse, it really ticked them off. That email or tweet or whatever he sent was, in my opinion, blown way out of proportion. If that was a real deal, they would have gone after the producers of it and been angry at the producers of the movie. They were just looking for any reason to lay the hammer down on him after the vaccine thing. And then lastly, they, as a result of that, I don't believe ever negotiated in good faith. And I think that they generally treated him poorly. All stemming from the fact that he was not willing to get a vaccine. And the truth of the matter is, I think from that moment forward, this relationship was irrevocably destroyed because of the way the Nets handled that. I would have a long time ago fired Sean Marks. I think he's a weak leader with ulterior motives with everything and none of his own originality. I think he's really done a terrible job with this club. And now if Kevin Durant does want to go away, now all of a sudden you turned a budding young team with a lot of assets, great culture, and a great coach into, depending what you get for Durant, if that happens, which we'll talk about next. Now you're gonna go into a rebuild, bottom of the East playoff contender. Like, I mean, that's what you did. Sean Marks has to be held accountable for the mess that he's created here in Brooklyn at some point. He really does. I mean, he's made one bad move after the other. And it all started with combining these two. And this is the other thing I wanted to say on this. Using Durant, Irving, and Harden as the three examples of guys who have gone to multiple teams, ring chasing or legacy chasing in the case of Durant, trying to get rings that are viewed as more legitimate. He and they have proven one thing. The very thing that a lot of people use against LeBron James as the biggest reason why they don't respect him is the single greatest achievement of his career, which is he went to 3 different teams with a million different coaches and teammates and won in all places. And these guys are making the case and showing you why LeBron is the only star player in NBA history to do that. It's hard. You can't just pack up, leave, go, and because you're a great player, boom, you can bring championships with you. LeBron pulled that off. No one else has done that. Not Jordan, not Shaq, not Kobe, not Bird, not Magic, not even Kareem. Nobody. There's a number of guys that have done it in 2 places. Kareem did it in 2. Of course, that you had I guess who else has done it in 2? There's been a couple guys that did it in 2 spots, but no one's done it in 3. Shaq, that's another guy I was thinking of. Shaq's done it in 2 places. I'm telling you, that to me is a fallout from this Kyrie thing. It's illustrating that going from team to team and doing this whole quote super team thing is not the easy ticket to championships that a lot of the NBA public would make it out to be. LeBron made it look easy because he's LeBron James, but no one else has pulled that off. So anyway, I think ultimately Kyrie Irving was probably treated poorly here with Brooklyn. And I don't think they ever had any intention of trying to fix that relationship. And the truth of the matter is the timing for this for them kind of stinks. I don't know how long Durant's going to be out for, but what are they going to do these next several games? I mean, they have a game tonight. They got more guys on the injured list than on their active roster. I mean, what are they going to do?
Hope Thomas gets 44 again. That's about all they got, Gary.
That's it.
Yeah,
right?
But isn't that what the Lakers are trying to do now? Build another super team?
Well, they are, of course, but all teams that win are trying to build super teams.
Right.
That's how you win.
But everyone involved in the trade is trying,
Right. Well, because that's how you win. But
right.
But what I'm saying is, it doesn't mean you're going to win when you do this. There's been a lot of these teams that didn't win. And usually the teams that do have some success have 1 or 2 of the pieces in place, the big pieces in place, and acquire the second or the third. What made the Miami Heat different is they all came over other than Wade. 2 of the 3 came over, and then pretty much the whole roster other than Wade turned over. Wade and Haslam were the only 2 guys who basically stuck around. All the role players were new. They basically imported a team, and then the Cavs did much the same thing with LeBron and Love, and it worked. Uh,
Right. Right.
this, I mean, I was on this from the moment they talked about this pairing. There was no way in hell this was ever going to work.
You were. You had.
Like,
I'll admit.
there was no way, absolutely zero chance. And
But I do disagree on one thing. Kyrie's not the victim here. He wasn't treated well, obviously.
yeah,
They
no, I
didn't
don't think
negotiate in good faith,
I don't think
obviously.
I don't think he's a victim either. I don't think there's any victims here. But I think if you're looking for a culprit for why he requested a trade, I don't believe in this instance it was Kyrie the malcontent, the wanderlusterer. I believe it was due to the fact that they weren't negotiating in good faith and a lot of things of that I just laid out.
I agree with that.
Yeah, there's no victim here. I'm not trying to say Kyrie.
But he does have history.
Oh, he does.
The malcontent in Cleveland. He was unhappy there.
Yep.
Couldn't wait to get to Boston.
Yep.
Unhappy there.
Yep. And I think he was generally happy in Brooklyn. And
well, he was home. I think that meant a little something.
I do. And I think my personal opinion is if these clowns in the Nets front office didn't get their panties in a bunch and their feelings hurt over Kyrie having his own opinion on something, they would have been able to keep him. I believe Kyrie Irving would have liked to have been here for a prolonged period of time. I do believe that. You know,
I wonder how he's going to feel about Dallas.
Yeah, that's something else to discuss as the show goes on. One other thing I'll say about this real quick, kind of going back to Kyrie's previous stops. Cleveland, young player, maybe got put in the position where he had to subjugate his game a little earlier than he was ready to for the betterment of the team, for the winning of the team. I always say great players like that, particularly great scorers, need those few years in their early to mid 20s or so to kind of like, quote, be the man and realize that scoring 1,000,000 points is fun for a while, but then needs to be like subjugated to win. I don't think Kyrie had enough of that prior to being put in the position of having to play alongside LeBron James. I mean, Kyrie's almost said as much with some of the things he said about LeBron in recent times. He admits he made a mistake there. Boston, I think, was the best example of him just being like a malcontent. And I think that's where that label fits, and it's fair. But I think where I fall off the Kyrie malcontent bandwagon a little bit is this broad brush that Kyrie's a malcontent. I say, no, I think Kyrie was a malcontent in Boston. There's a difference. I don't think that's just who he is. I think he's very much an individual.
This one felt a little different.
It did. It felt a lot
different. It did.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when Durant was crying about a trade last year, Kyrie didn't say a word. Didn't say he wanted a trade. And didn't have a trade in mind. Perfect. He brought this on, just like you said. We don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes, but you can pretty much guess.
Yes.
What happened, because how often are you going to let a star player sit this long without signing another deal?
Oh.
It doesn't happen. That's usually handled the year before, the offseason before their last year of their deal takes place. So right there, it has to make you suspicious. I do have a question for you, because I have a take, brief take on this, but how do you feel this is going to work in Dallas?
You know, I'll tell you this much. If they can figure out how to integrate Luka and Kyrie, because they're both on-ball players.
Yeah, very much so. They're ball dominant.
Yeah, they are. But I'll tell you one thing. If they figure out a balance, because remember, not that they're the same type of player, far from it, but LeBron and Wade were very much similar stylistically, and they made that work. You know what I mean? Like, obviously LeBron was better, but they were similar players, style type.
Again, you're talking about the most unique player in the league.
Right. No, I understand it's a little different, but what I'm saying is they were similar enough archetypes that we had this same question. Now,
Okay.
I'll tell you this, if Dallas does figure that out, and this is a great challenge for Jason Kidd, that is a terrifying backcourt to go against.
It is. And Kidd wants to challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give Jason credit for that.
Good for him. I hope he knocks it out of the park, because I'm going to tell you this right now. Both of those guys are of the type that there's almost no reason to double team either of them. Double teams are about as effective as one-man guarding of both of these guys. They make no difference, and all you're doing is leaving people open. So, and the problem with them both being there, if they figure out the balance, is the other strategy you have against great players often, especially great guys who are also playmakers, is you let them get theirs. Well, the problem is there's two of them now. So you can't let them both get theirs. So what do? Like, I think it produces an incredible conundrum for defenses potentially. And I also will say this, with the West being as wide open as it is, good for Dallas for taking the shot here without any assurance that they're going to keep them long term. Right. Because I'll tell you what, this could very well propel them to the finals in the West if this goes well.
I've got two looks at this. This is either going to be spectacular, or it's going to go up in flames.
It'll be either spectacular or spectacular.
There is not going to be an in-between.
I agree with that.
But it's going to be interesting to watch. Think about this, though. Dallas is smart. This is a smart GM. Mm-hmm. They gave up their 2029 first. It's like a lifetime from now.
It is.
They still have their 25 and 27 picks. They could add someone else. And you've got a couple of salaries, too. Davis Bertans, Tim Hardaway Jr. That you could make a deal, and if you bring in the right piece, you won't have a major impact on that rotation. I just have this feeling they're not done.
No, I mean, that's very possible. And I also think I completely agree with your take. And I'll also add that they gave up a couple of good players in Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie. You get the
but they got a great player back.
Well, exactly. And that's what I was just going to say.
And a serviceable player. Everyone's discounting Markieff Morris.
Yeah, he's a solid player. Yep.
He can play.
Yep. So but I guess what I was going to say, the reason I bring that up is those are the type of guys, to your point about them maybe not being done, you can replace people like that. You know what I mean? You can find another bench scorer to replace Dinwiddie. You can find another D3 wing to replace Smith. You don't just find another Kyrie Irving. They'll just grow on trees.
Right.
So, no, it's interesting. All right, well, let's take a break. We'll come back. I want to talk about the fallout for this as it relates to Kevin Durant. That will be next. We'll have the question of the day later on. We'll get into some news you can use, top 5 and second hour. A lot to get to. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you. with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
Okay, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show. So here's what I want to talk about. So this is probably going to sound like a bit of a stretch of a take. And, I understand why people might think that. But this is honestly how I feel. One thing I want to preface this by saying, I never give takes just for the sake of thinking this will get a reaction. Everything I say, I believe. I might embellish things or use hyperbole here or there for dramatic or theatrical effect at times, but the crux of everything I say is my authentic opinion on anything. So with that kind of disclaimer ahead of time, here goes. I personally believe Kevin Durant, with a depleted Nets team, stands to gain more from powering a team like this to relevancy and a playoff series win than he would gain in terms of reputation rehabilitation from winning another championship with a team that's already close to doing so. I personally think there is more street cred, if you will, for him in taking a team that is looked at as not good to a point of overachievement than there is in taking a team that's perceived as a championship contender without him to a championship. So what I would say to Durant, if I had the opportunity, is I would tell him this might be a blessing in disguise. This isn't what you signed up for here. I understand that, but I'll tell you something. If you stick this out and take a team of relative nobodies to, let's say, the Eastern Conference semifinals and lose a hard series against Boston and you just dominate. Let's say you lose in 6 or 7 against Boston or Milwaukee, but you average 40. That's going to tell people a lot more about what you can do to elevate a team by your singular greatness than saying you want to trade. And let's say you get traded back to Golden State or to Dallas or to Phoenix or wherever to pair up with other stars. I personally think this is an opportunity for Durant, not a setback, based off of what he went to Brooklyn to get, which was the, quote unquote legitimacy of his titles. And Brooklyn can't win a title as presently constructed, but they can, I believe, if Durant's as great as we believe he is, I believe he can take this team to a conference semi and put the fear into Boston and Milwaukee before losing. And I think that would do more for him than winning a title in Phoenix or any place else would. So that's just my personal opinion.
That's quite interesting. I have to agree.
I mean, wouldn't you look at that as like an amazing accomplishment if he took this band of brothers
with Dinwiddie being probably his second scorer? Yeah.
I mean, that
would be a tremendous accomplishment.
Right.
Oh wow, this is quite interesting. Now you had 2 players. Thomas had 44. Someone else had 38. Both career highs. What if these players flourish? Because remember, the last game, neither player was in the lineup.
Yep.
What if these players flourish under these roles and at least become? I mean, I know they won't get 40 and 38 every night,
right,
but become solid contributors.
Well,
I mean, I know they drafted Thomas for a reason.
Right. I mean, Jacques Vaughn will get, and deservedly so, a lot of credit for that. I think if they flourish consistently in roles that fit them. Durant very well might get some credit for that. Yeah, I mean that's possible. But the perception of this team, at least for the rest of this year, barring a major move, is going to be it's Durant and role players. You know, that's going to be the prevailing perception. There's nuance in that, and you know, you could stretch that a little bit if you want to, but that's going to be the prevailing perception. Which, if he overachieves based on that perception, I think he stands to gain a lot reputation.
I do too. I really do. And I mean, don't discount the addition of Dorian Finney-Smith. He can defend both forward spots.
He's a good player. No, he is.
He is an asset that Dallas is going to miss. Now, let's look at it from their standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading reports that, well, Kyle Kuzma and OG Anunoby are targets of theirs. One, they don't have enough to get Anunoby.
Who's tried to target them? Dallas?
Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't have enough to get him. That's a pipe dream. Kyle Kuzma, maybe, if Washington feels like they won't be able to sign him. And they might be able to get him for those first 2 picks and a player.
Oof, I'll tell you what. I honestly, for Dallas,
and Kuzma can defend both positions.
That's what I was just going to say. For Dallas specifically, I would rather Kuzma than Anunoby. For that team. I think that team needs like that extra wing versatility scoring punch, and Kuzma's a shade under 7 foot. Both would be tremendous, but the thing I like about Kyle Kuzma that I give him a lot of credit for, and I always have. I think Kyle Kuzma, of all those young Lakers, there's a reason he's the one that got to stick around and play on the championship team. He had a maturity about him, a willingness to be a role player at a time, like I was saying with Kyrie, where most good or great young players want to just fill it up to establish themselves. He was able to temporarily kind of keep that under wraps and just play a role. And that's something that a young player being able to do, a young, really skilled offensive player like that, is a rare trait and is something that makes me want that guy on my roster. Beyond his ability. I mean, his ability is self-evident, but that character trait to me is a big deal.
Agreed. I also think that not only would that be the best acquisition for Dallas, but that would clean up that defensive issue in the front court. The offense is a bonus.
Yes. Agreed.
But it really would. If they didn't want to give up both of those picks, and I don't see why they wouldn't, could you see like a Jay Crowder who can defend both spots?
I mean, Jay Crowder would make a lot of sense for Dallas. I agree. I think other guys that come to mind, you look at a guy like I know I've heard the name Siakam. I would be shocked if Toronto moved him. But
they're not moving Siakam. They're gonna move Anunoby first.
Yeah, right.
Siakam and Barnes aren't touchable from what I've
those are the 2 guys they want to build around. That's understandable. But yeah, I'll tell you what, I agree. I don't think Dallas is done. I think they're gonna do more stuff. I think they're gonna make more moves, and I think they're gonna be a really dangerous team. Because I believe personally that they're going to figure out a way to make this work. I can't say how just yet, but I think Luka is going to be thrilled to have a guy that he could just give the ball to and he can go get it done.
Yeah.
Luka's never had that in his whole career.
And remember, they're 0-7 this year when Luka doesn't play.
Right. Yeah. You talk about being able to share the load with someone, doesn't get more shareable than Kyrie Irving. I mean, if you're talking guards in the NBA right now, I don't think you can make an argument there's not two better guards in the whole league than these two guys. I mean, Luka's certainly one of the best two guards in the NBA.
Yeah,
And you can make the
geez,
case
Kyrie
for Kyrie.
is
Kyrie's a magician.
Kyrie is probably the most unique player I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Wow.
He's an anomaly with what he can do with the ball.
Yeah.
For a guy who does not have that much size,
Nope.
he gets. I mean, I understand LeBron or
Yeah, sure.
Durant getting to where they want to go. Kyrie doing it amazes me.
Yes. And his touch is just so feathery soft. You get the
Yes.
sense that he could like place the ball on like the backboard and have it stay there if he wanted to. Like he's got such a beautiful touch.
I wish he would have been in the right headspace in Boston
Yeah.
because that team would have won a title by now.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been something. I mean, you can't guard those three guys. Like that's
Right.
not even possible.
Right. And I hope he's in the right headspace in Dallas. Give it an honest chance. This could be special.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as long as there's no external factors, meaning some other type of front office hubris, or Kyrie just has his mind made up he wants to go play in LA because he is a free agent after this year.
Which is a distinct possibility.
That more than anything, that would be my concern. And Kyrie will get killed for it if he does that. But
He will.
But the truth is
He doesn't care.
Oh, he doesn't care. No. But the truth is, if that's just what he wants to do, that's your prerogative as a free agent. You know what I mean? That's what free agency is. If the team can sign you. Which, you know, the Lakers probably would be in a better position than the Clippers in free agency because assuming Westbrook's contract comes off the books, there's the money right there. Just that by itself. But anyway.
Yeah, but that was the trade that would have had to have been made now. Once Westbrook's off the books, there's no trade.
No, but what I'm saying is if the Lakers think they have a chance to sign Kyrie in the offseason, they just don't re-sign Westbrook, and there's the money they need to sign Irving.
Not that easy. Not that easy. Check your luxury tax implications before you say that.
I mean, if you have to move another small player or something, but that's like
you'd probably have to move a bunch of pieces. And there's no reason why they shouldn't.
I mean, that's like $50 million that's coming off the books.
Right.
48.
But they're higher into the luxury tax than that.
Right. They're probably like 60 million into the luxury tax.
When you're into the luxury tax, you can't just make that kind of signing. There's read some of these rules, man.
Yeah, there's a way.
If you don't have a headache, you will.
Yeah, no, I'm not reading any of those rules. There's a way to do it, and they would be in a position to if they chose to.
They would make some other moves, absolutely, to get him. And the Clippers could do the same.
Do they have a big contract coming off the books?
No, but they could create a couple of things. They have a few contracts coming off the books. They could make the space because they're not as deep into the luxury tax. But it would be a challenge for both teams. But I think both teams could do it.
See, the question would be like, what else do I have to do if I'm the Lakers? Because they're going to move on. If they don't trade Westbrook, they're going to move on from him, Kyrie or not. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. So that coming off the books is going to happen one way or the other by trade or by absolution. Right. So the question is, what else needs to be done? Because the problem for both the Lakers and the Clippers, to varying degrees, they're both in a position where they're veteran laden and they're kind of built to try to win now.
Right.
Even though the Lakers aren't winning very much and the Clippers are winning just a little bit more, but like you're not going to trade a bunch of guys for a maybe, right? If you're a team that's trying to win now, but if you can trade one or two guys, like if, for example, moving Patrick Beverley and someone like I don't know,
think a little bigger of a number.
Well, Patrick Beverley's got a decent cap.
$5 million.
I mean, you're not going to need that much more after you.
I think you'll end up, from the way it looks, needing about $13 million.
Okay, so you got
So they'll move off of 2 or 3
yeah,
pieces.
so you
and-
move off of Beverly and probably someone like another guy that makes middle money. Probably someone like I would think what's his name, the forward Thomas Bryant. He probably makes about 6-7 million, 8 million, something like that.
yeah.
You know what I
That,
mean? And
that would probably do it.
that would about do it. And those two moves don't kill you. You know what I mean? So, because they don't kill you. But anyway, it's something to look at. But I think ultimately getting back to Kyrie in Dallas, I actually think it's going to work. Now, whether Kyrie decides he wants to stay there long term or if he's got his mind made up going to LA, like we were just saying, that's a different story. But
There's an allure to LA
there is.
that Dallas just doesn't have.
That's right.
And as someone who has moved from New York to Texas, a bit of a culture shock.
Hmm.
Probably a little less of one in Dallas than in Houston,
Okay.
because Dallas is a little more cosmopolitan. Houston is like, a lot of yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
I mean, a lot.
Hey, love me some yeehaw. That surprises me. I would have assumed it was the other way around because Houston's the larger city, and I'm surprised that they're less yeehaw than Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas. Dallas is very diverse. It's a lot more cosmopolitan, and because of the people that it attracts professionally, that city is almost recession proof.
Hmm.
Whenever there's a job issue, there's never one in Dallas.
That's true. That's very true. All right, well, there we go. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll come back. We will wrap things up. Actually, you know what? We only got a few minutes left in the hour. Do you have anything hockey related or otherwise?
There's not much. We just come off of All-Star weekend. Looked like it was a lot of fun. A lot of players had family there. The schedule's back to normal now. There are a couple of teams that have a few days off. 3 locals are playing tonight. The Islanders are in Philly.
Okay.
Vancouver is in New Jersey. And Calgary's in the Garden playing the Rangers. One interesting note, the trade the Islanders just made for Bo Horvat, he hasn't played a game with them yet, but he agreed to an 8-year, $8.5 million a year extension.
Nice.
So he could finish his career on the island, and that's a good price to get a guy who scores like this.
There you go. That's awesome.
Now, how the family's going to feel about the move, I don't know. They could have been very comfortable in Vancouver, which is a beautiful city. You never know. You never know. They might be very happy on the island. Well, how much of a choice do they have? He signed for 8 years.
Well, there you go.
But it's good to see the area teams making a little noise.
I'll tell you one other thing that I wanted to kind of mention from the weekend. I have to tell you, for the first time, maybe ever, there was something about Pro Bowl weekend that I actually thoroughly enjoyed. I thought it was awesome that they were playing dodgeball. Like, at first I was like, what are they doing? They're playing dodgeball? And then I went to like, man, they're playing dodgeball. This is great.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the offensive lineman with the weight thing?
Yeah, that was awesome too.
Having to pull the weight off and then pull that device?
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's nothing close to football or
No, the
competitive or
game is a
anything,
joke.
but that was fun. I'm down.
Although
with
it was
stuff
kind of
like that.
cool at the end of the game to see Peyton Manning flip out about a penalty that wasn't called.
Yes, that was great.
Because he didn't want to lose to Eli.
That was great. That was great.
But I thought some of the events they had were fun.
I agree. That was my takeaway is like, I'll watch that before I'll watch a meaningless football game.
A bunch of guys going through the motions
Right.
because they don't want to get hurt.
Right. And that's
And I
perfect-
get that.
Yeah, right. Of course. That's perfectly reasonable.
You want to blow your career to a Pro Bowl
Of course not.
injury?
No, of
I
course-
wouldn't.
No, of course not. So I loved that. I thought that was so much fun. I was like,
It
man,
was
they're
fun.
playing dodgeball. This is awesome.
It was a lot of fun. I did enjoy that as well.
I was at a bar having lunch, a bar and grill, and I looked up and I'm trying to. It took me a minute. I was like, "Who are these guys? They all look pretty big and athletic, but like." I was like, "Oh, it's the Pro Bowl weekend. These are NFL guys." And I saw who was it? It was an offensive lineman from somebody. And then I saw Stephen Diggs was in there for a minute, and I was like, "Oh, this is the Pro Bowl. They're playing dodgeball. This is great." Oh, that was fun. It really was.
As in any other All-Star weekend, those are the competitions that make it fun.
Yes, 100%.
The All-Star game, the All-Star weekend stuff in the NHL was great.
Yes, it was.
They had a combination hockey golf hole where, I mean, the guy that made the putt for birdie that won it did it with his hockey stick. There was a bunch of surfboards on each side of dunk tanks, and they had to shoot and trap the first one to knock the player in the water. They did a lot of cool things. And the goalie thing was fun. The games nobody cares about. It's like the NBA game, who cares? But everyone wants to see the three-point competition. The skills competition, when they actually had a good one, was always compelling.
Yes, it was.
And they need to go back to some of their old roots on that to make it better. But that's more fun than the game.
Yes.
I
without a
guarantee you
doubt.
more people watch Home Run Derby than they do the baseball All-Star game.
Oh, without a doubt. Well, it's just more interesting. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And the NFL finally caught up, and it's good. Because I did something I hadn't done in a millennium, I think, and that was watch a Pro Bowl weekend. That was a
telling you.
blast.
No, that really was. I had a lot of fun. It was a well done event, and I like I was saying a couple of days ago, and now I say this with more conviction because I've seen the product. Obviously, I think the NFL is on the right track with where their mind is with this Pro Bowl weekend now. Like I have an expectation, a cautious optimism that they'll build from this, that this won't just be like a flash of like, oh, that was kind of fun. I think I think their mind and focus is in the right direction with this now.
I do too, because I mean it's a matter of fixing it. And this they took to it well, and they made some really good moves. And I'm glad to see, because this shouldn't be, it's the most watched league in the country.
Yes.
Maybe the continent.
Yes.
And they had to realize that the game doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, these things are worse than preseason games.
Oh yeah. No, they are.
And everything they put around it was perfect.
Yep. Totally agreed. There we go. All right. Well, let's take a break. We'll come back. We have the second hour around the corner. We'll have the top five of the question of the day. We got news you can use. There's actually some games in the NBA to talk about. So a lot to get to. Back after this, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Hour 2 of the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave, cavetalkradio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app, and new cup of coffee. Doesn't get better than that. Freshly ground, I might add.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Nice and smooth. You know,
What kind do you have today?
Noble. Kenyan.
Oh, okay.
Our-
Yeah, that's what I have this morning.
one of our go-tos. See,
Yes.
that's one thing we're spoiled with here in Orange County. We have 3 great coffee places. 2 of them are roasteries. Days Coffee and Noble, and then the other one, Coffee Barn. They have amazing coffee also.
Yeah, that's my must try.
Yeah, all 3 of them are amazing. It's pretty hard to choose between the 3 on a daily basis. I'll say it that way. So
I believe it.
the good news is Noble is kind of far away. So like, it's not far. It's like 20 minutes, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So that makes an easy default for like buying a pound of it and then just like not having to go there for a while. And then the others are closer to my house. So they make good, like, regular stops for like a cup here and a cup there. That's usually how I balance it out. Though I have bought whole beans and single cups from all 3. So,
Interesting.
yes, it's a good problem to have. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into the top 5. What do we got today, Jack George?
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for King Talk Radio's Top 5.
All right, what do we got today?
Okay, seeing as how it was an all-star weekend in 2 sports, with every sport available, give me your top 5 all-star moments.
Oh man. I mean
And it could be any sport.
Magic Johnson at the All-Star game has to be number 1. That has to be with the winning the MVP and the HIV thing and all that. That has to be number 1. A close second though for me, Cal Ripken hitting a walk-off home run in his last All-Star game in 2001 was pretty awesome. That was pretty cool. I was like 15 or 16 at the time. And that was awesome. I enjoyed that a lot. So Cal Ripken, I think in football, my favorite all-star moment was when a 50-something-year-old Darryl Green was like racing 40s against like the fastest guys in the league at that time. Like Devin Hester was there, and I think they had like Dante Hall, like all these guys, like Jermaine Lewis, all these like burners. And Darryl Green's like going step for step with him. He's 50 years old. He's retired for like 5, 6, 7 years already. I thought that was so cool.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was cool. I like the early and mid 80s when they would have the up through the early 90s, they have the NBA Old Timers game during the All-Star weekend. I remember watching one on YouTube. I wasn't around for it live when it happened, but I remember watching the full game on YouTube. You had Johnny Red Kerr was out there, Hal Greer, Oscar Robertson. It was Rick Barry was out there. Pete Maravich was like the kid because he was like relatively newly retired. This is from like 83 or 84. So he was like retired for like 3 or 4 years by that point. So he was still like, pretty
most.
young. Yeah. Well, he retired after the 80 season. Because he was he played 1 year with Larry Bird as teammates.
Right.
So
right.
So that was cool. Let's see. So those 3 come to mind right away. Ripken, Magic. Well, those 4, Green, and those NBA All-Star games. Trying to think of some others. I don't know that I could say it was my favorite because I hated it, but it was certainly memorable. The tie in the 2002 baseball All-Star game when they didn't know what they were doing, so they had to like make a decision like on the field, ceilings coming out of the stands, talking to people. Like, that was distinct. And I don't know if I could say it was my favorite because I didn't really like it, but it was certainly very memorable. Let's see what else we got. Thinking basketball, thinking football. You know, I thought it was neat when Vince Carter ceded his well-earned starting spot in the All-Star game in 2003 or whatever it was to Jordan his last year. I thought that was pretty
Yes.
cool. That was a nice classy gesture by Carter. I remember that. So that's an interesting one. I like the first time they did the that new scoring system in the NBA in the All-Star game. I forget what it's called, the ward scoring or whatever, where it's like they, you play to a score basically near the end. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is.
Trying to think.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was just a few years ago that they started doing that. And I think the home run derby that Pujols put on recently was really cool. As an old man coming out there hitting home runs at a great pace, that was really awesome.
Yeah, that was. The home run derby has provided so many.
So yeah, there's a lot. So let's put this in order now.
Okay. I'm sure you have some you'll eliminate.
Yeah, number one for me is gonna be Magic Johnson. That was like really cool. Almost, well, pun intended, I guess, magical. But that was awesome. Number two is gonna be, I think Ripken hitting that home run. That was pretty awesome. I wasn't a huge Cal Ripken guy. He was kind of, most of his prime was a little bit before I followed baseball. But yeah, by that point, I knew who he was. I knew how much I respected him because of the streak and all that. And to have him kind of go out that way was awesome. Number three for me, it's a tough one between Darryl Green and I'm gonna go with those All-Star games, the old-timer games from like the 80s. Like watching like Bob Pettit and Johnny Red Kerr, even though they were like decades past their prime. I just thought that was so cool. And like it was so clear that not only did the guys have a lot of fun with it, but they were definitely trying to win.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was reasonably competitive. It really was. And
that's something I wish would come back.
I do too. So I'm going to put that at 3, which means Darryl Green racing the kids when he's in his 50s goes at 4. And I mentioned some of these other things, the tie and Carter giving up his all-star nod to Jordan, his starting spot to Jordan, and a few other things. But I'm going to go with last night. I mean, I was so surprised to be watching dodgeball. I was like, this is just cool. And the best part about it is the people in it were having a blast. Like they were letting loose. They were trying to win. They were competitive with it because you can't really get hurt with that. Very unlikely. And like it was clearly they were a little out of their element, out of their routine. Just got to kind of flex some of their athletic ability because they're all obviously great athletes, not just great football players. And it was just fun to watch. It was very Sandlot and a very I guess you could say innocent feel to it. It was really cool. I enjoyed it a lot. I really did.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. So I'm gonna put that as my 5th. So there's my top 5 for today.
Perfect.
Yeah, that
perfect.
was.
I thought about that last night. I'm like, this is a moment, and how many moments have there been?
Yeah, no, it was not a lot.
I mean, I remember a number of home run derbies. Those old timers games in the NBA are always great.
Oh, they are.
And that's something they need to get back to.
They really do. They really truly do. No, that's good stuff. I remember when I was watching that on YouTube. 3 things stuck out to me. 1, Nate Archibald was still faster than everybody by like a mile.
Yes.
2, Rick Barry still didn't give a crap about if he hurt anybody. He was chasing people down, fouling them from behind. And
he, at this stage in his life, he's still competitive.
yeah, he would still do that, right? And then the third thing that stuck out for me in that game was all of the post passing. A lot of like backdoor give and go. Johnny Red Kerr trying to throw passes between his legs, being a showman, though he was 50 pounds overweight and 40 years past his prime. It was just so fun. It was so great.
Oh yeah, and those events make it special. And like I said, I know the one you always liked with the current player,
Yes,
the legend,
and the WNBA player. Yes,
and the WNBA player. They need to find a way to get that in.
see, that would almost be fun. I would love them to bring that back, but I thought there was other things they could have done with that they didn't. Like, I think you could have like a 3-on-3 there if you wanted to, like a game to 21 half court style, because they're gonna basically stick to their matchups.
Right.
The legend can guard the legend, the woman can guard the woman, and the current player can guard the current player. And not going to kill anyone or hurt anyone if they end up switched. I mean, it's probably not going to go very well for Candace Parker if she's guarding Karl Malone down low. I don't care that he's 50, but
Right, right.
But whatever, she's not going to get hurt. She just might get scored on. And if Karl Malone switched out on Damian Lillard, that's probably going to go bad for him on the perimeter at 50 years old.
Well, see, that's the thing.
But he's not going to get hurt.
Some of the current players will be guards and others will be like centers.
Yes.
So that would make it very interesting.
It would make it a lot of fun. It absolutely would. I totally think they should bring that back. There's no reason not to. Those 2 things. They're both safe. They're both different. They're both things people would tune in for. And the people that you're engaging, the legends in particular, would eat that up. They would love it.
Oh, yeah.
They would love
yeah.
it. And the other reason I think they should bring that back with a particular emphasis on integrating play with legends and current guys is I think that could go a long way to maybe easing this, civil war between the 2 factions we always talk about. I think that could be a way of trying to heal that chasm a little bit, if you will. But, what do I know? I'm just some guy. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll come back. We will do our news you can use. We'll have our NBA reviews. We'll have our question of the day. That's what's on tap the rest of the way. Question of the day is next. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Says Brunel Corporation President Chris. Eyes are the windows to the soul and to top-notch athletic performance. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, you may qualify for a free continuous glucose monitor system. Managing your diabetes is crucial to your health. The new CGM systems can automatically manage your diabetes better for you. And by using a CGM system, you can eliminate forever one thing most people with diabetes hate the most: finger sticks. Now it's possible to manage your diabetes better, end the painful finger sticks, and get a new CGM monitoring system at little or no cost to you. We even provide in-home delivery and do all the insurance paperwork for you. Now is the best time to manage your diabetes better and get your continuous glucose monitor. Call now for details. Call 800-438-1391, 800-438-1391. 800-438-1391. That's 800-438-1391. Paid for by U.S. Med.
80% of the perceptual information athletes use in their respective sports comes in the form of input from the eyes. So says Brunel Corporation President Chris Andrews. His vision training company is one of very few serving the behavioral optometry industry. Andrews contends that in sports, as in regular vision, only 20% of what you see comes from your eyes, while 80% of your vision occurs in your brain. Question: which sport do you think is most heavily reliant on visual acuity? Tennis, baseball, or hockey?
Oh God, all of them. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
if I had to pick one, I'd pick baseball because I suppose, that sport has the largest variance in factors that challenge visual acuity because, shadows come in, you have night games, you have day games, you have different angles from different arm angles from different pitchers, lefties, righties. I guess some of the visual dependent factors in the other sports are more constant. So I guess if I had to pick one, it would be baseball for that reason. But yeah, you can't be a blind hockey player or a blind tennis player either. That's for sure.
Right. Right. Yeah. I that was my first thought when I heard the question.
Yeah, I mean, certainly all of them. But I mean, I think if I had to differentiate, I would probably say baseball because there are unique visual challenges with baseball based on the nature of the game that aren't necessarily as pronounced in the other sports. The one thing I've always wondered about tennis, though, from a visual standpoint, is when you're playing on the green surface, that lime green surface, that color is close enough to the color of the ball that I wonder if that causes some vision challenges.
That's quite possible.
I mean, when you're looking at it, those two colors are close enough to each other that might be an issue. Hockey has the opposite of that. Obviously, a black puck against white ice. That's if you're on the
Right.
on the rink.
And in tennis, you're playing on so many different surfaces too. You're playing on clay. You're playing on grass.
Yeah, well, that doesn't affect the visual. The only one that would be that lime green, that on the ceramic surface. Yeah, the clay I would almost think would be helpful. It would almost be a contrast, but for seeing the ball. But yeah, I think it would have to be baseball to me because of all the dramatic changes in what you have to look at. I mean, you hear pitchers talk about it all the time. What do? Changing the eye level of the hitter, right? Change what they're looking for. So it's all about, impacting the ability of the batter, especially to locate the ball visually. So it's such a central part to the central action point of the sport that I think baseball has to be the answer here. The more I think about it. I mean, you can't play at a base level. You need to be able to see to play any sport, right? But
Right.
if
Right.
you start going into the nuanced details, not talking about someone being blind versus now we're just talking about someone who can see versus someone who can see better. Like one of the keys to the great hitters, like Ted Williams had like famously historic eyesight.
Right.
And that was a trait of his that made him one of the things that made him the great hitter that he was. Most of the great hitters share some quality like that. So yeah, I think it would probably be baseball.
Yeah, it's hard for me to distinguish between any of the three. It really is. But baseball really, visual acuity means so much.
Yes.
So much more than in, it's hard to say than in anything, but I do have to give that slight edge to baseball. I mean, tennis balls are coming at you at quite a.
Oh yeah, you got.
And hockey pucks are shot almost as fast as
the tennis ball. Yeah.
Actually, a baseball. I mean, the hardest shot in the All-Star competition last week was over 103 miles an hour. Jeez. That's every bit as much as a fastball coming at you.
Yeah, no question.
And then some. So yeah, I'm going to stick with all of it. In all sports, it's imperative to have great vision.
Yep. No, it definitely is. No question about that.
Although I get it in baseball. Yes. Because, someone could be throwing 101 toward your head.
Yeah, that's not good.
Although a shot in hockey can be going at 100 plus.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think all three have the projectile danger factor to them to varying degrees.
I think tennis is the least.
Probably so. But still, if Andy Roddick's throwing up a serve there at 110 miles an hour, I don't want that hitting me.
Right.
So, what's
most of these players are pretty good where you can,
well, yes,
get out of the way, but still.
What's a scary sport to play along these lines? You ever play racquetball?
I have not.
You have to really trust the person you're playing with. You're basically in an enclosed box, a 4-wall room, and you're slamming a hard tennis racket all over the place. And there's unlike tennis where I'm on my side and you're on your side, you're sharing the same physical space. So it'd be very easy to get nailed on the backswing or, hit the back of the head, with the racket, unintentionally. It's a scary sport. It really is. Just throwing that out there. Racquetball is not for the faint of heart.
It is.
It really is. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do some NBA. We got news you can use as well. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you. with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show, and before we dive into our news you can use in NBA games, I did want to go back. I know we talked last week, Rich, about we started doing some of the NBA trade deadline stuff. We mentioned the Nets. Not exactly what we had in mind.
No.
And so it shows you things change so fast. Let's take a look though at what this means. We'll do more teams tomorrow, but let's kind of do, I guess, a bit of revisionist history here now with the Nets. Where does this put them in your estimation the rest of the way from the trade deadline? Are they now buyers or sellers after this?
I don't know. I thought they would be buyers and tried to get another piece in there for Durant. Now they haven't ruled out trading Spencer Dinwiddie.
I was seeing that in the break. That's actually what precipitated this question. Yep.
So what? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, because I mean it's because it really could go both ways. Because I mean, on one hand, they might just blow the whole thing up, right, and just trade Durant and trade everybody.
I don't know, because they're making this. They want to do this with Durant in mind. I mean, they can't trade him until the off season anyway. But they acquired him more as a trade piece because they're not looking at him as a guy who would fit alongside of Kevin Durant over the long haul.
Oh, I think that's garbage. I mean, he's an ideal sixth man.
I do too. I'm saying what's being reported about the Nets.
Yeah, no, I understand. I don't agree with that thinking at all, is what I'm saying. I think that's wrong. I mean, and plus Spencer Dinwiddie had probably his best success in the NBA with this very organization.
Sure, he averaged over 20 points a game with them in his best season.
He's one of these guys that's becoming a guy that no one seems to want to claim as their own. And I really don't understand it. This guy's good.
I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
One, not only can he score, but he can create his own shot.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And he's usually pretty durable, and he's got a great attitude. He's a pro.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, the guy's just a pro. I want guys like that on my team. That's how I feel about Kyle Kuzma too. He's another guy, like I was saying before, just has a great attitude. He's just a pro.
Right.
And you love to see it.
Oh, absolutely. Who else is a seller? Dallas.
A seller or a buyer? They're a buyer, Dallas.
They're a seller. They're looking to move Tim Hardaway.
But they can't be. I mean,
I'm sure what they want back will make them better.
Well,
but
that's what I mean, I guess, by a seller or a buyer. They're looking to upgrade
both.
their roster. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's shooting 34% from three.
Yep.
That's not good enough.
Nope.
And is someone going to take that? Because he's got his contract pays almost $18 million next year and over 16 the year after that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hard thing to move, because I figured they wanted to trade him rather than Dinwiddie. But that contract made that hard. because he makes even more than Dinwiddie does. And I think Dinwiddie's the more consistent player.
Yes, no, I think Dinwiddie. I agree. I would rather Dinwiddie than Hardaway too.
Kevin Durant's not thrilled with Ben Simmons.
Well, I can't blame him. I mean, Ben Simmons has been a shell of his former self. He's not useless, but he's very much a role player at this point and nothing more. And you expect
Right.
more from him. He's capable of more.
He is. And I get that KD wants more for him. But what are they going to get for him if they move him?
Right.
That market has to be almost dead.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
for what he's making.
Yeah, I can't imagine you could never. I mean, what are you going to get? Like, here's an example. What if you were to trade him to Phoenix as an example? I mean, you would get like Jay Crowder and like that's it, other than whatever it would have to do to make money work too. But like literally you would need to find a team with another bad contract that you think fit your roster better and almost do like a contract swap and hope you could get another quasi useful piece as the quote value coming back in the trade. Because like that's what you're going to get right now because he makes so much money and he's effectively a role player like you just said. I mean, like if I was Phoenix, would I trade Jay Crowder for Ben Simmons? I guess I would, depending what else I'd have to throw in to make the money work. But like,
yeah,
but that like forgetting money for a second.
But then again, yeah, what's that going to do to their cap?
But forgetting money for a second, that's about what I see in an absolute sense. Ben Simmons being worth is like a Jay Crowder type of player right now. I mean,
and do you want a guy like that on your roster if you're Phoenix or another team that
not really, no,
makes that kind of money?
No, that's why that's like probably the most untradeable contract in the NBA right now because I'm paying this guy like a star, and he's basically, barely a starter in terms of his production. He's a really good defender. He's a good playmaker. He plays well in transition. He's got some qualities that you like, but at the end of the day, I don't need to pay someone, what's he making? 35 million, 32 million a year or something like that?
To score 7 points a game.
To score 7, get me 5, 6 or 7 rebounds and 7 assists. That's cool. But like I always say about Draymond Green, those are basically role player numbers. That's more or less what Draymond does. That's a role player. It's a good role player.
Right.
But it's a role player. I'm not paying.
Draymond's a highly functional role player, but he's not worth that either.
No, he's a role player at the end of the day. I'm not paying that. So I'll tell you the one team that maybe could rehabilitate, because the way you trade for Ben Simmons right now, if you decide to acquire him, is having strong conviction that you can, quote, fix him, right? That would be the only way. And then you still get him at a bargain because you can, but otherwise you're not even going to think to acquire him. I think the one team that comes to mind that might be able to fix him, and he'd be able to do this in the shroud of anonymity because it's a smaller market and they're awful right now, but I believe he could potentially become a real version of himself again with San Antonio.
I think he might be able to.
And what do they got to lose? I mean, that's the other thing.
Right, but what are they going to give the Nets?
I mean, whatever. Yeah, I mean, probably there's not much, but if you're the Nets, you'll take what you can get with him, I would think, because you're not going to get much.
Right.
And that's one place where I could see him thriving because he won't have the pressure of winning now or playing with another domineering populist star. He's going to be in a smaller market with a team that's been known for player development and reclamation projects over the years. Like, to me, that's the spot. It's like the spa treatment of the NBA. Probably not a bad analogy when I was saying spa treatment and using Greg Popovich in the same sentence. He's everything but a spa. He's as spa-like as a bunch of rusty nails, but, freaking Popovich. What a grouch. What a grouch. He is King Grouch.
Yes, he is. It would be interesting, but if he just gets back to what he was in Philly,
well, that's what I mean. And if I'm,
you know, 12, 13 a night,
yep,
7, 8 rebounds, couple of block shots, 9, 10 assists.
Yep, great.
Then he's
defense,
worth it.
Transition, absolutely, 100%.
Yes.
Remember when Simmons was first coming into the NBA, how he was the next LeBron? That went over really well.
Well, you didn't hear that from me. I never make those comparisons.
No. We didn't say that, but we certainly
neither one of us
did.
did.
No,
No,
we didn't say that. That's almost as bad as when Harold Miner was Baby Jordan. Like, yeah, no. let's chill. Harold Miner is basically the first version of Darius Miles.
Yeah.
Miles Swift. Yeah, he can dunk.
Oh, jeez. Name all the pieces. The terrible NBA pieces that people once thought worth something.
Oh, my goodness.
A couple more trade news items here.
Yeah, what's that?
The Raptors want players, not picks for Anunoby.
Okay.
I get that.
I like to hear that, actually.
They should be better than what they are. They have a positive point differential.
Yep.
All 5 starters are playing like top 100 players, and they're 5 games below 500, 6 games?
Yeah. See, I think this team needs a rim protector in the worst way. I really do. I think they're desperate for some kind of rim protection.
They are.
Like, I don't know if you could interest them in this, but I would call up, if they're looking for players for Anunoby, I would call up New Orleans, who clearly needs a shot in the arm right now. Offer them Anunoby in a deal centered around Valanciunas. I think
they've had Valanciunas.
They need him back.
That would work.
And Anunoby
that would honestly work.
And Anunoby might give the Pelicans the shot in the arm they need, because they went from, like, at one point they had the best record in the Western Conference. Now they might be one of the 12 worst teams in the NBA over the last 2 months.
It's weird. It really is.
It's a weird team, man. It really is.
How they look like they've never played.
I know, it's concerning. I mean, it goes beyond just injuries now, right? Because Ingram's back. They've won games before without Zion. So it goes beyond injuries. Like, I don't know what this is, but I know it's.
I mean, and Ingram might be out again, so.
I mean, yeah, it's because he's played a bunch of games recently. He's been back for a number of games at this point, like 3 or 4 of them. So I don't know, but I look at this and I think, yikes, really, really not a good look. It's a weird team, and that's exactly the type of thing, because they do have the talent they have. I'd be saying, let's go ahead and get a shot in the arm here. You know, let's shake things up. Let's acquire a big talent like Anunoby.
But if you get him, where does he play?
I'd probably play him at the 3. Ingram's 6'10", 6'9", long arms.
He's not a 4.
Okay, so play Anunoby at the 2.
All right, you have to.
Yeah. Play them at the 2 and the 3. I mean, because you could play, I mean, really, in this NBA, with
it's
the way
positionless anyway. I mean, you could, for wings.
Yeah, you could throw if you wanted to go like a small lineup, a spread lineup. You could play Ingram at the 4. He's not 200 pounds soaking wet. I understand why.
No, but then where does Zion play?
At the 5. I mean, he plays like a 5. I mean, I know
he
he's
does
6'6", but I mean,
yeah, that's kind of.
I understand, but so is Charles Barkley.
True, but the same Barkley's NBA anymore.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but that's how I would do it, especially with Zion out, because who knows when he's going to come back. I think I would go with a lineup like that, but But yeah, I don't know. I look at this and I think to myself,
Well, if they trade Valanciunas, they'd have to.
yeah, well, they would have to, right? That's going to create that hole in the middle. But I mean, if I was Toronto, that's the guy I would be looking to acquire, though, if I'm looking at players, because in my estimation, to answer your sort of hypothetical question of like, why aren't they better? They should be better. To me, they have such a absolute void in any and all rim protection and paint protection. That's why, because
They do.
the other teams get such high percentage shots so consistently because of that, that it's hard to overcome. Because they're not an elite offense. They're an okay offense. They're a capable offense, but they're not the type of offense like the Kings, for example, that can overcome similar inefficiencies
Right.
because
Right.
they can score 120.
But I think it's a tribute to them athletically and their coaching that they are the team they are, even though they're not
Right. Well, that's,
winning games.
well, that's why it makes sense for them to want players instead of picks, right? Because they have to feel, for the reasons we're talking about, that they're close. And a tweak here and a change there and an upgrade there could get them where they want to go.
True.
So anyway, all right, let's take a break.
I got a couple more real quick.
Okay.
It looks like the Jay Crowder trade's off. Everyone thought he was going to the Bucks.
Yep.
It was rumored Crowder for Serge Ibaka, Justin Nwora, and George Hill.
Yep, that's the one I saw.
Now it's not going to happen.
Huh.
And I don't think it's completely dead, but I think that I think it's going to be hard because they know Phoenix has to move him.
Yes,
And if he doesn't move in a few days, guess what? They're stuck with him for the year.
that's right.
And I think they should. What if Milwaukee decides they don't want to trade Nwora because he's young and athletic? If I were Phoenix, I'd say, okay, fine. Ibaka and Hill's good enough.
Yep.
For a guy who's not playing?
Yep, that's right.
And I think this is all on Phoenix. One last one. It looks like Clippers are not thrilled with John Wall. They're minus 7.1 points per 100 possessions when he's on the floor. They're plus 1.6 when he's off. And when Wall went out and Terrence Mann stepped into his spot, the team's been winning and playing better defense. He's not the player he was, and he might be bought out by the Clippers after the deadline. I don't think anyone's going to trade for him.
No.
But they've been quite proactive about this. Because you were dynamic 10 years ago doesn't mean you're dynamic now.
Well, that's true. Time marches on. There's no question about it.
Right. And yeah, I just don't think there's a move there.
Both of those guys, Wall and Cousins, to various degrees, leave me feeling with a lot of like what could have been type of sentiment. Like combination of underperformance, bad situations, and bad injuries kind of snapped both of their careers mid-prime. And I think it's a shame because both guys were sensational watches. It still had remained to be seen if they could like lead a team to a title, either one of them as a 1 or 1B. But I'll tell you what, both were among my favorite players to watch every night. They were both incredible. And the way both of their careers kind of fizzled midstream like this leaves a lot of like what could have been sentiment in me. It really does.
I don't disagree at all.
God, they were fun.
I know.
Those two in college as teammates, even though it was for 1 year,
yeah.
that was crazy. I was like, yeah, both of these guys are like almost NBA All-Stars like right this second. And they're playing in college together. I think both of those guys would have been direct to the NBA types had they been allowed to.
Yes, yes. And with Wall, I mean, it's hard. Cousins can make some adaptations as a big.
Yes.
With Wall, there's no place to hide.
Right. Right.
As a guard, there is absolutely zero place to hide.
And the problem for that compounding that is that truthfully, Cousins is probably a better shooter than Wall.
Yes.
You know, he really is.
Wall is having a terrible year shooting.
Yeah.
Terrible year. He has not had, and no one expected him to have a defensive impact.
Right.
Not anymore.
No.
He's just not athletic enough.
Right.
But shooting 30% from three, 40% from the floor.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
But yeah, they got better as Wall got injured and Mann went into the lineup.
Yep, it's true.
Which is why I would have hated to have seen them trade Mann. But if you're getting Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. I'll tell you that. That would be another trio to deal with Kyrie, George, and Kawhi. Ooh.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, Terrence Mann's a really nice player.
Oh, he is.
And yeah, they're just beating down so many doors and not coming up with any answers.
Now let's keep it right here. Let's do a little news you can use to kind of wrap up the show. Anything else interesting?
You know, there's not a lot. Fox is super excited for Tom Brady.
Yes, they better be. They're paying for it, that's for sure.
And a report that was comments were uttered by someone who doesn't have the authority to make them. But he said completely off the record, the interviews with him went amazing. He has the personality for this. He has an ability to explain football knowledge in a way people can understand it. He has a sense of humor, and he might not be afraid to take a few shots. So that kind of intrigues me.
I've never seen any of that in Brady other than the ability to explain things, but I've never seen him as particularly engaging personality-wise. I think he's always been very kind of buttoned up, you know.
It was the New England way.
Pleasant and professional, but even in Tampa, he was that way.
I watched that special on him on ESPN. Yeah, he'll drop some profanity, but he is a very engaging and funny individual.
I'm looking forward to seeing any of that for the first time. I've never seen that from him.
I never did either until watching this special, but I think those Belichick years kind of made him that way, and he stayed with it for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I've never seen, like, I understand why networks wanted Peyton. I understand why they wanted Eli, and I understand why they want Brady too. I mean, he's a big name, and that's just what they do. But yeah, I have to see some of this before I'm reserving judgment for the time being.
Okay.
I'll see.
More than fair.
I'll see how it plays out.
Cavs are going to make a big decision on Kevin Love.
Buyout, perhaps?
He didn't play last night. He's officially out of the rotation.
Wow.
He's out of the rotation to make room for Dean Wade, who is a good player, but Bickerstaff and Love had that conversation, and it was quite difficult. Love hasn't played since January 24th. He's an expiring deal. I don't know what they're going to do with him.
I mean, the guy is still such a good player. I would take him on any team that's contending. I mean,
I would
If
too.
he becomes available in free agency, veterans minimum type of prorated deal, something like that. I mean, there shouldn't be a shortage of teams that want him. I mean, Denver, the Lakers, maybe the Clippers, maybe hell, I could see Phoenix wanting him. I could see New Orleans maybe taking a step. I mean, you would think like all of the Western Conference playoff teams, maybe Philadelphia.
Yes,
You
Philly
know,
could really use him.
you know,
LeBron wants him back. They've discussed it.
oh yeah, well they became good friends, the two of them.
Right. They've discussed it for next year, but this could be something a little different if they can talk Genie into going further into luxury.
I mean, it wouldn't be much because I would assume Love would be signed to a prorated veterans minimum
Right.
for the rest of the year. You know, he's not going to sign a big deal. So, but no, that's interesting, man.
One more quick thing. Cross the Warriors off that championship run.
Uh-oh.
Curry's going to miss multiple weeks with this injury. And apparently it is worse than people thought. The lateral contact to the knee was bad, but he already had a sore knee. He had extra padding on. And that padding were pretty much like goggles in a hurricane or in a volcano. They'll do nothing.
Yep.
But apparently it's two separate knee injuries, and it's going to be a while. They could be out without him for a good portion of the regular season.
Yeah. I think the Warriors probably have to make significant roster adjustments going forward. I think this team has run its course to a degree. I really do.
What could they do at the trade deadline?
I mean, the obvious thing would be to move Green or Poole and go one way or the other. I would personally move Green. I think that blow up in the preseason destroyed this team a lot more than they'll ever admit. I think they've never been right since then. And I think that some of the somewhat questionable lineup configurations that we've talked about on the show, namely Looney really losing his starting spot and not playing a lot of minutes and going with Poole, I think has been a over adjustment by the organization to try to placate him and, basically kiss and make up, which tells me I think that they're kind of committed to him more so than Green, which makes sense given the age of the players.
Yeah.
But I think that ruins this team right out of the gate. I don't think they ever recovered from it. Because where they struggle this year is on defense, right? They struggle on defense and with turning the ball over. On defense in particular, and you know this, is where sacrificing for the guy next to you comes into play. And if you're not willing to do that because you don't like that guy in a deep-seated type of way, it presents itself, that disconnect presents itself with sloppy defense. And the Warriors have been horrifically sloppy on defense all year, which is not their norm. I think that blow up ruins this team. I really do.
I don't disagree.
I don't think they ever really recovered from that. And I think that they're going to have to move on from Green or Poole. And, I think that's an obvious choice. Well, that does it for us. We will be back.
Oh, that really
tomorrow.
does it. Wow.
It does. That is it. So we will be back tomorrow, 10 to noon. We'll see you then. The Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.